Between the ages of 1.5 and 4.5, the human brain is under heavy construction. Neural pathways are branching and connecting at a rate that will never be matched again in a person's lifetime. For decades, early childhood education has struggled to handle this critical window. Programs tend to veer toward two extremes: highly rigid academic drilling or entirely passive daycare, where children are simply kept busy until pickup. This programmatic overview details Scholar School's Kidspire method. Its specific premise: curiosity must lead before intelligence grows. It synthesizes three massive educational figures: John Dewey, Maria Montessori, and Howard Gardner. The result is a unified daily routine. Developing the whole child is often tossed around as a buzzword. Here, it is treated as a measurable outcome, built step by step from the moment a student walks through the doors. The morning starts quietly. Assembly and prayer time establish a shared routine, signaling to the child that they belong to a collective group, a transition that immediately lowers social anxiety. That collective feeling gets practiced right afterward during circle time. By sitting together and interacting directly with the teacher, students are nudged to speak up. This forces peer-to-peer interaction, building early language skills and the confidence to express ideas out loud. Establishing that emotional baseline is deliberate. A child who feels secure and connected to their peers is capable of absorbing the heavier cognitive demands of core subjects, like literacy and numeracy. Here, Maria Montessori's influence becomes visible. Students engage with phonics and vocabulary through tactile, self-paced materials. They hold the letters and trace the shapes. Building emotional security first is the mechanism that allows a 4-year-old to focus on sounding out words later in the morning. A century ago, the philosopher John Dewey argued against rote memorization, insisting that children must interact with their environment to gain meaningful knowledge. This diagram comparing data retention rates illustrates his core theory. Passive listening yields a low bar for memory. Seeing something improves it slightly. Active participation results in the highest level of understanding. The Kidspire method turns this data into a specific daily block called kindergarten lab time. Instead of filling out worksheets, kids are grouped together to solve tangible, physical problems. They have to share materials, negotiate with their classmates, and test ideas with their own hands. When students physically interact with abstract concepts, they build a concrete frame of reference. They observe how a lesson operates in the real world, rather than just hearing a definition. Later in the day, the schedule shifts to reflect the work of developmental psychologist Howard Gardner. He proposed that human intelligence is divided into multiple distinct categories, arguing that mathematical and linguistic abilities are only two pieces of a much larger cognitive map. Under this framework, snack time serves a specific purpose. It is a controlled environment where kids practice table manners, learn to share food, and develop interpersonal intelligence. Rhythms and story time function similarly. They train emotional intelligence by asking kids to empathize with characters, while pushing their imaginative expression through music. Even time spent in the play zone is treated as a critical curriculum block. Navigating a playground requires complex spatial awareness and motor skills, directly developing bodily kinesthetic intelligence. Under Gardner's model, physical activity and musical expression are never breaks from education. They are subjected to the same developmental rigor as counting numbers or recognizing shapes. The day wraps up with home time. Teachers lead a daily emotional recap, ensuring every child processes what they did and leaves the building feeling joyful. Looking at the bottom section of this class breakdown, you can see how this daily routine scales. From playground toddlers to 4.5-year-olds in PP2, the structure matures alongside their developing brains. As they grow, the routine is enriched with broader real-world connections, cycling through dedicated sensory activities, cultural programs, and theme-based learning weeks. Conventional preschools often measure success by whether a child can pass a primary school entrance exam. The Kidspire mandate is to graduate children who are socially resilient, emotionally articulate, and curious. Engineering a warm, scientifically grounded environment that captures their imagination today is the most reliable blueprint for ensuring they achieve tomorrow. Between the ages of 1.5 and 4.5, a child's brain builds connections faster than at any other time in their life. This brief 3-year window is the critical period for laying down the cognitive and emotional wiring they will rely on for decades. However, early education often falls into one of two traps. On one side, rigid early academic pressure stifles natural curiosity. On the other, completely directionless play leaves zero learning objectives. Scholar School developed the Kidspire method to solve this exact problem. It is a carefully engineered approach that uses to choose between structure and play, instead blending them into a single cohesistem. This method is a calculated synthesis of the most thoroughly tested philosophies from three of history's greatest education theorists. First, we have Maria Montessori, who pioneered the idea of a prepared, child-centric environment where independence is cultivated through self-directed activity. Then there is John Dewey, who argued that learning requires active engagement, leading to a deep focus on hands-on, experiential discovery. Finally, Howard Gardner provided the framework for nurturing varied, multiple intelligences, ensuring that different types of minds receive the precise stimulation they need. To truly see how these towering theories combine to develop the whole child, emotionally, intellectually, socially, and physically, we have to look past the textbooks and examine the deliberate architecture of their daily routine. The day begins with morning assembly and prayer time. Gathering together with peers and teachers acts as a necessary psychological bridge, easing the transition from the comfort of home into the structured environment of the school. This shared start serves a highly specific function, forging a deep sense of belonging. Establishing these emotional bonds early in the morning makes the children feel anchored and welcome. From there, the timeline moves to circle time, where the students sit down to interact with their teacher. Looking at this schematic, the physical geometry of the classroom becomes clear. By removing the hierarchy of traditional rows of desks, the setup forces a democratized, multidirectional flow of communication, which naturally enhances a child's confidence to speak and their ability to actively listen. This entire morning sequence acts as a strict prerequisite for the rest of the day. A child must feel physically secure and socially valued before they have the confidence to take on real intellectual challenges. With that security established, the midday block introduces the core subjects, focusing on literacy and phonics for English, along with numeracy and shapes for mathematics. These classroom sessions are designed to lay down early cognitive groundwork, training the brain to recognize patterns, decode sounds, and process logical elements. Following these foundational lessons, the schedule shifts to a critical pivot point called kindergarten lab time, bringing John Dewey's philosophy of engagement directly into the classroom. The entire lab operates on one specific driving principle: I hear, I forget; I see, I remember; I do, I stand. During this session, abstract concepts introduced earlier in the day are brought to life. Students engage in group collaboration and problem-solving through tactile manipulation, turning mental ideas into physical objects they can actually hold. In the Kidspire method, true cognitive understanding is never passive. A child has to physically interact with the subject matter to permanently lock in the learning. Moving into the afternoon, the routine transitions away from traditional academic and into rhythms, storytime, and the play zone. This is where Howard Gardner's influence takes center stage. His theory of multiple intelligences explains why these non-academic activities are treated with the exact same rigor as math or reading. This diagram illustrates how the curriculum recognizes that human intelligence is not a single measurable academic metric. Instead, it is a broad spectrum of abilities that all require equal attention. The dedicated music and story sessions are specifically calibrated to target emotional understanding, pushing students to flex their imagination and practice memory expression through narrative. Following that, the play zone uses guided physical play to develop vital gross motor skills, reduce accumulated stress, and force real-time team cooperation outside the confines of a classroom. By deliberately dedicating a massive portion of the day to creative expression and physical use, the method ensures that every child's unique type of capability is given the necessary space to grow. The daily timeline reaches its final stage at home time. Preparing to leave involves a deliberate recap of the day and an emotional check-in with the teachers, providing clean psychological closure so children leave feeling positive and resolved. When we zoom out from the timeline of a single day, we can see how this daily rhythm fits into a much wider Kidspire ecosystem designed to keep the child engaged over the long term. Beyond the daily schedule, enriched learnings like integrated themes, vibrant color days, and cultural festivals provide novel, real-world connections that actively break the monotony of a strict routine. Looking at the bottom of this class structure, you can see how this specific blend of daily and monthly consistency is applied across all stages of early education, from their first steps in playground up through their final preschool year in PP2. The Kidspire method is a comprehensive, holistic engine, By engineering a daily routine where curiosity leads the way, Scholar School ensures every child is inspired today so they can achieve tomorrow.